Welcome to the Happiness Podcast. I'm Dr. Robert Puff. We struggle in life. Sometimes we struggle a little. Sometimes life is very challenging. There are bills to be paid. There are illnesses to be treated. There are world events that sometimes keep us up at night because of our fears of what's going to happen. Sometimes in our interpersonal relationships, there are just struggles, things that make it hard, living our life. So how do we change this? Are there ways or a technique that we can lessen these struggles and make our lives just better? I want to talk about today a very specific technique, skill that we can implement to improve our lives and make the struggles of our lives lesser and perhaps even go away. One of the key components to living a happy life is being able to tell the difference between what we're in control of in our lives and what we're not in control of. Whether we're out of control permanently or we're out of control right now. We don't have any influence on this thing right now that's bothering us. And this technique is very simple. It's thinking about the thing that we want to be different, that we wish would not be the way it is right now, and say yes to it. Embrace it, hug it, welcome it. I know this may sound crazy, but it's a very good skill for improving our lives and making our hearts happier. So let me explain what I mean. What I'm going to say next may seem extremely obvious, and yet at the same time, almost everyone fights this and struggles with this very issue. In life, we do want to make changes that improve our lives, particularly if we're suffering. We want to make quick changes to make things better. The key, though, is knowing what can we change, what do we have control over, and what can we not change, or what do we not have control over, particularly right now. For example, at the end of a school or work day, when we come home for the night, we have a choice. We can choose what we're going to eat that evening and what we're going to do if we have a few hours extra with our free time. That's within our control. But as we're relaxing in the evening, we may get on our phones, get on social media, and see that one of our friends is on a European vacation and looking like they're having a wonderful time. And perhaps because of the job we do and what type of educational background we had and the opportunities that were presented to us and the choices we made over the course of our lives, we don't have the money to do that. We just have enough money, given the high inflation right now, to pay our bills, and some things we even have to cut back on. So we could get very upset over the inequalities of life. After all, I'm a good person, I work hard, why can't I go on a European vacation and have a great time too? Why is it so hard for me? This just isn't fair. I hate this. And sometimes it gets so bad that we actually hate our lives. All right, I'll stop there because I don't want us to get too depressed. I'm here to give us hope and a technique we can use to make our lives better right now, no matter what's going on. And here it is. Saying yes to things in our lives that we cannot change, at least right now. I'm going to go in a lot more detail, so hang in there. But let me go back to this example, how this would work in when we come home and we read about someone traveling through Europe and it makes us depressed. So what we would do, we would come home and say, I'm so thankful I have a home to come home to, and a roof over my head, and a soft bed to sleep in, and today I have food, and I'm okay, and I have a job that's paying my bills, and I'm thankful for that. And not only that, I'm embracing that and saying yes to the life that life has given me right now. Because this is the life that we have. Whatever is happening right now is our life. And fighting that, particularly things that we cannot control right now, is silly and causes us to suffer. So what we're going to learn to do is, instead of being upset, being angry, being frustrated, being depressed, sometimes even being suicidal, is embracing what we have, loving what we have, particularly on those things which we can't control. So let's talk about things we can and cannot control. Let's start with the things we just cannot control. The very obvious one is world events. Could you or could I control world events? Probably not, unless you happen to be president of a country or something. We probably can't have much influence over world events. But don't we all know people that get so upset over world events, things happening in the world? I mean, there are things we can do to make a little impact. We can get politically involved. We can donate money. But there's a lot of things in life when it comes to world events we have zero control over. And yet, don't we know so many people, perhaps even ourselves, that get very upset over things that are happening in the world? I think we all know examples of this. So perhaps spending hours and hours engaged in world events where we have very little control over may not be good for our souls. We may want to limit that, or we may want to get politically involved where we can make changes, but realizing the changes may move slowly and may move in even the opposite direction of what we want. So because we don't fight that as much, and in some ways we even say yes to it. Yes, I accept that there is hunger in the world, and I'm going to still love the world that I live in. I'll do things to change it, but mostly I will just embrace the beautiful world that I live in, whatever is happening right now. That's a very different way of engaging with world events. But let's bring it closer to home. We can't change the past. Do you agree with that? The past has occurred and we can't change it. But what we can do is say yes to our past. You may say, but Dr. Puff, you don't know how dark some of the things in my life have been. The truth of it is, many of us have had dark things in our past. And yet, we still can love ourselves and say, I'm grateful for that event. I'm thankful that that happened because it helped me become a better person. Or equally important, stop hiding from that event. Stop trying to hide it from the world, or at least from our hearts, because we are who we are. And being ashamed, wishing the past were different, is again the path of suffering. Instead we say, I cannot change the past. I cannot control the past. I can say yes to my past and now move forward. Yes, I lost my job, and that's okay. Yes, I am divorced, and that's all right. Yes, I didn't finish high school, and that's okay. Now we can make changes for the future, of course, but we can't change the past. So wishing the past were different is the path to suffering. And we're not here to suffer. So part of realizing that we can't control is our past, because it happened, will release us from wishing it was different. Now there are some things in life that we have somewhat control over, but not immediate. For example, we may look in the mirror and say, wow, I don't like those extra 50 pounds I put on over the last 10 years of my life. I don't like that at all. But we are 50 pounds heavier. We can say, okay, I'm going to look in that mirror metaphorically and say, I love you. I may work towards changing it today, but I love my body and who I am. And I say yes to that person that I see in the mirror, because that person is me today. And I'm going to love that person and hug that person and say yes to them. And saying yes to something we don't like in our lives doesn't mean we can't change it. It just means that if today there isn't going to be immediate change, we don't look at it and say, I hate it. I hate my life because of this. Instead, we say, I embrace this. I'm a single person with no one in my life. I'm going to embrace my singlehood. I'll get out there and meet new people. And perhaps in 6 months, I'll be in a loving relationship. But right now, this moment, I'm going to embrace my singlehood if that's what's before me. And then the last thing we can do is there are some things we can change fairly rapidly, but not today. We may be coming into a big sum of money from an inheritance, from a rebate, from a bonus, from a governmental incentive that is coming our way, and we can think about it, be excited about it, and plan for it. But a far better way to approach this is saying today, that money isn't here. And I'm going to be thankful for what I have today and all the riches that life has been given me without that check, without that extra money. And so what it gets to is, yes, things do change. We may be excited for a vacation coming up because we love to travel, but that doesn't mean at the same time we don't live the day and only live for the vacation. That is a way of suffering again. So often we know change may be coming or will be coming, but that process of hope, that process of waiting for things to be different, causes us to miss out on today, all the beautiful things today. So even though we may be waiting for something to be different, we embrace today, whatever right now is bringing us. We say yes to that. But Dr. Puff, I'm in pain. We embrace that pain and we say, I'm in pain. That means I'm alive. But Dr. Puff, I'm going through a divorce and I'm scared. I don't know how I'm going to make it. There's just so many unknowns. But what do we have today? Do we need to take care of our kids? Do we need to do our laundry? Do we need to make our meals? We focus on what's before us and do that well. And then that helps us get through one day at a time. Because when we tackle one day at a time, we're really good at living well. When we get stuck in the past or we think too much about the future, we miss out on today. And sadly, most people are missing out on life their entire lives. They may have a lot of thrills, or maybe a few, but they miss out on life, where life can truly be a beautiful adventure if we embrace what's before us right now. And in reality, right now, usually there's not much we're in control over. There's very little we can change right now. But the one thing we can change is how we see right now. And if we see it with a big yes for right now, guess what? We'll begin to see that peace and happiness in our hearts that's always there begins to surface again. When we fight life, we suffer. When we try to control things that we can't, we suffer. When we try to control things that we can't control right now, even if we can in the near future, we still suffer, because then we're missing out on life. And life is about saying yes to whatever is happening right now. It doesn't mean we're not going to make changes. It doesn't mean we need to set boundaries. We will when we need to. But even there, we're thankful that we're able to set boundaries. We're thankful that we're able to make changes. And we're thankful and saying yes to this moment. That's the key. Embracing, saying yes to now. It's not too hard to practice this on the little things. When we get stuck in traffic, when we're on hold for a long time, say yes to these times. When it's harder, if we're going through a divorce, if we're diagnosed with cancer, even there, say yes. And when we look at world events that seem overwhelming, even there, we say yes. Again, it doesn't in any way mean we're not going to do things, but right now, if there's nothing we can do, we say yes. We're thankful that we're aware. We're thankful that we have the ability to make changes in the future, and we're thankful that we're alive. We embrace the moments, and then we stop trying to control the moments. And what we'll find is, with that release of control, and with that embracement of yes, our lives are beautiful. Thank you for joining me on the Happiness Podcast. If you'd like to learn more about the podcast, please go to happinesspodcast.org. And until next time, accept what is, love what is.